Welcome in, everybody. This is the Tech Tailgate Show brought to you by Tech Credit Union here from the Centier Bank Studios, getting you all set for high school football on a Friday night here coming up in just a little while. Michael Brander here, along with two guys that know a lot about football, and that's the one and thankfully the only Jay Simmons. And then, of course, our sports director, Mike Dewan, who puts in so much effort to get ready for this upcoming football season. Guys, it's hard to believe we're already back for Friday Night Lights.
It seems like this past year we were watching Crown Point in the state championship, and now we're already back here. I'm excited, fired up. Let's get it rolling.
No kidding. We had a fun week at the Cal Ripken World Series just this previous week. Many of you probably heard the voice of the World Series, Michael Bradner, on most of those calls. But it was a fun week, but now just like that, we're ready to get into it.
Yeah, changing the mindset from baseball, singles and doubles, and now getting down to yard lines and moving the sticks a little bit. So that'll be fun to change things up a bit, but I can't wait to get this season going. A lot of really fun matchups, intriguing matchups week one of the high school football season around Northwest Indiana. But before we go to those, let's take a look at what our conferences look like, kind of where we were last year and how this is going to go into this year. Let's go ahead and start with the GLAC, the Great Lakes Conference. And you got three teams in there. You got Morton, Hammond Central, and East Chicago. Guys, I feel like Morton is one of those teams where, every year it kind of feels like this is going to be a year where they just kind of take that next step and they keep moving on, and then just something kind of hinders it or just something doesn't, put them in that spot. We talk positively about them and glowingly going into a season every single year, but then by the time we get to the end of it, it's just like, man, there was just something that stood in their way. What are we looking at Morton this year?
Yeah, they're a team. This previous season, they had a solid year, and they got a lot of guys over there. It was their best season, I think, record-wise and kind of just on-the-field production-wise since Mac Mishler kind of took over. But now they're hoping to kind of take that next step. Yeah, you mentioned, they're kind of a team that's always going to be in the mix come, the preseason, maybe in a couple weeks. But, what could they do in the playoffs? What can they do when the time comes around? We're definitely going to talk about this team later. But I'm excited what they got. I think this is definitely a season where they got those playmakers that we're going to kind of mention maybe later when we kind of go into our top 10. But they got some dudes over there, and I think they can kind of rewrite history and kind of break that mold.
Well, the sports director's given some spoiler alerts already over here.
We already released
Morton's, they're building a program. They're doing it the right way, so I think they're going to make some big steps this year. You talked about it. I think, they got in their own way a little bit last year with turnovers and some penalties here and there that sort of, shot themselves in the foot. And I think if they can put a good run together early on in the season, they can make some noise in the playoffs.
Always a team to look forward to. And then you got Hammond Central. Still kind of, you talk about kind of in infancy, but we're kind of getting out of that part now. They've been a team for a couple of years now.
Yeah, it's they're always seeing what they're kind of doing over there a little bit. It's kind of hopefully trying to trend up. It's an infancy program, like you said. And Adam Hudak's still over there just trying to get his guys going. I think they're, in year 4 already. So, it kind of was a rough start. They kind of, ascended up and then kind of fell back down to earth this previous season. But now they're looking to kind of right the ship again. They got some guys over there that, they were definitely a fringe, I'd say, kind of on the bubble team, I'd say, for that list. But they could make some noise again, similar to Morton and kind of the small conference. They got an out-of-conference schedule, so they got to look for some teams to schedule and potentially make some noise. It's going to be a fun start for them, and, hey, if they string out a couple games, they got the guys, and they can end up on our list for sure.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason their record was 5-5 last year is they did have a little bit more tougher of a schedule, throughout the season, especially when you're scrounging for games and you only got 3 teams in your conference, so it makes it a little more difficult to find some good matchups for them.
And last but not least, we got East Chicago. The Cardinals. Always a fun team to watch. I've caught a couple of games, years ago out there. It's always a good environment.
Yeah, it's a fun city in terms of just sports. It's always, when you have a solid team. We saw that for basketball this year. When a sports program, especially in that type of city, if you're playing well, the city's going to rally behind you. And they're kind of in a situation where they're trying to kind of reinvigorate the program, get the kids back out there, and kind of string together a couple wins. So, again, in that small conference, they're going to have to try and maybe try and get their kids ready for the future, but they're just hoping for kind of a bounce back year this year and try to bring things kind of back up to speed.
Just to mention one little tidbit about East Chicago Central, that's where I started my coaching career 34 years ago.
Who's counting?
Not that I'm counting, but
34 years. I'm not even that. We're not even that old yet.
Nah.
I guess my coaching career is older than everybody in the room.
You're laughing us, man. You're laughing us there.
Jay, you and I talk about on broadcast a lot, whether it's basketball or baseball. I mean, obviously, East Chicago, a little bit more known for their basketball presence. But when you, and Mike, you touched on this, but when you go to some of these, the Lowells, the Hobarts, and they have a fan base that is just rocking and ready to go on a Friday. East Chicago, as you said, can do that. A lot of times it's during the basketball season. They show out. It's a community that just they strive and they want their community, their school to do well. So it's, if this team can get something going here, that community is going to show out. They're going to support. They're a phenomenal fan base.
Yeah. Years ago, I mean, when I was coaching there, we had 3,000-4,000 at every home game just for football. So it was fun, and we had some fun rivalries back then. We played Bishop Knoll in like the first game of the season, so it was fun.
And I know they don't want to kind of play third fiddle to both of the Hammond schools there with those, Hammond kind of consolidating, Hammond Central. Those are two 5A schools, East Chicago kind of a 4A school, but they're kind of falling behind in that, small conference. They want to kind of try and get back up there. And that may take a year, that may take a couple, but, that community, once they do, they're going to rally around them.
Yeah, I absolutely love going out to East Chicago for games. All right, let's talk about the GSSC. Let's start with the North, guys. Where do you want to go with this one first?
Yeah, I think we'll start with kind of the reigning division champs. I like Boone Grove a lot. We'll talk about them a little bit later. They're just a super, super fun offense. From what I've seen, they got a great quarterback, whom we'll talk about. But it's now it's a division of 4. South Central, who was previously in that division, is now on to the Hoosier North, to my knowledge. But River Forest, they're going to pose a fight for sure. They're a fantastic team. They were kind of on our bubble. Spoiler alert, they got some guys over there as well as a solid head coach and Mark Hidalgo. Bishop Knoll, they're kind of on the come up a little bit. Just regardless, they got some players on the football team, but we know they got a new facility. They're breaking in this year, multi-million-dollar facility, so that's super awesome to see. And then Lake Station as well. I know they're a super young team, and they're going to fight as well.
One thing that always stood out to me a couple years ago when we were over doing some of those pregame or preseason interviews with teams, the guys at Bishop Knoll, the players, they were so fired up to get going to play football. They're like, I'm going to score 100 touchdowns this year. They had confidence, and I love to see it. And I think now, you talk about it, infancy a little bit. They didn't have it for a long time, and now it's back. And so they're, bringing it, with confidence. And hopefully these guys can start making some things happen over there, especially on a new field.
Yeah, definitely. And then you got River Forest had a decent season last year at 6-4. So I think this conference is going to be a shootout this year for who's going to win it.
The whole GSSC, again, a lot of guys, I kind of mentioned this last year, but a lot of guys playing two ways. Some of these guys that are, again, they're key to your team, and they're key if you want to withstand this division or just this conference as a whole. You kind of need those guys going two ways. So yeah, we talk about Boone Grove; they're fun to watch, and they got some solid returners who we'll get into later. But River Forest, they're going to hang around. I know Lake Station's super young, and then as we mentioned, Bishop Knoll. Those are guys that want to play football, especially at a program that, they didn't have a varsity program for about a season 2 years ago. Now look at where they're at now, opening up a new facility. It's super cool to see as just a fan standpoint.
All right, that's the North. Let's go down to the South. You got teams like Wheeler, Calumet. Where do you want to go with this one, Mike?
Yeah, we got to go. We've got to start with Wheeler. I think the reigning champs of the entire conference. They had the best record. They had a kind of an early season skid, 0-3, and then they kind of bounced back. Nick Testa and his crew, and they got some guys coming back. They have a fun Week 1 matchup, who we'll get into later. Gary Westside, again, always a consistent program. They're looking to kind of make some damage. I know they got some guys coming back. They're going to be fun to watch. Calumet, they're going in second year of the Charles Salary era over there. I was fortunate enough to talk with him in this kind of summer period going through scrimmages, and I know he's super excited to get out there and make some noise. Whiting, a new coach, and Griffith too. They're a fun team to kind of talk about as well.
Yeah, you know what? I ran into Phil earlier in the summer. He was talking. He's always Mr. Positive, Mr. Motivation.
Sure. Oh yeah.
He talks a mile a minute about his football players, and he's last year they had one senior on the team. And, he's fired up. They called it the bike rack team because everybody rode their bikes to practice. Nobody drove a car. But he's fired up about it. He's got about 7 or 8 guys coming back, as juniors, now going to be seniors. The quarterback from last year has now moved out to outside linebacker, and now they brought a freshman up from the freshman team, and he's going to be starting quarterback for him. So it's going to be an interesting season, and like you talk about the second year. coaches. Now they've got these guys bought into the program. So I think, Phil's excited, and I think it's going to be a shootout between Wheeler and Griffith this year for the championship of the South.
Griffith could hang around West Side, but I think kind of one of the trends we're going to see kind of throughout going through these conferences is second-year head coaches. It's going to be very interesting. Nick Testa as well, the reigning GSSC Coach of the Year, going into his second year. He wants to kind of avoid that 0-3 start that team faced last year, and he's ready to kind of get things going for the boys.
I'll tell you what, Phil reminds me a lot of our own Jay Simmons, Mr. Positivity, all the time. It's great. We love it around here in the studio. Sir. We love it everywhere we go, especially out on site. He's the life of the party. All right, we're going to step aside for just a little bit. Don't go anywhere. We got the NCC and the DAC coming up in just a moment. So stay tuned here for the Tech Tailgate Show right here on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Tech Checking Plus from Tech Credit Union offers everything you'd expect from a checking account. Plus, you'll earn one of their best dividend rates for maintaining a higher account balance. Currently, 4.85% annual percentage yield. No need to choose between easy access to funds or earning a better dividend. Tech Checking Plus gives you both. Visit techcu.org, contact any branch, or call 800-276-8324 to learn more. Tech Credit Union is federally insured by the NCUA. Rates may change without notice.
When life keeps you busy and you can't get to the store, shop online with Strachan Van Til To Go. Our to-go service is easy to use. Register using your rewards account information, fill your virtual cart, and choose delivery or pickup. Once your order is in, our own Strachan Van Til team preps your order with care. With our to-go service, you can earn reward points and save time and money with our online coupons and weekly ad prices. Life made simple, shopping made easy. For more information or to sign up, visit shop.strachanvantil.com.
Hi, I'm Crowd Company's Lantern Man. For years, I've helped your family and friends save on their car insurance. And now I've returned to rescue you from high prices. Whether you have a perfect driving record or a not-so-perfect record. Follow me to the Crowd Agency for immediate and affordable coverage. I'm your insurance superhero. Crowd Company's insurance professionals. Highland, Merrillville, and Michigan City.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
And we welcome you back into the Centier Bank Studios. This is the Tech Tailgate Show. Mike DeWan, Jay Simmons, Michael Brander here with you. All right, boys, we've already talked about a couple of conferences. Let's move over to the NCC. A lot of fun teams in this one. You got to go with the team that joined the conference just a season ago, and I mean, they're just steamrolled right through it.
The new kids on the block, they weren't playing around, man. That's they're grizzled vets now as they kind of get into this year. Yeah, it's you can't really talk about the NCC without what Hanover did in that first season. As a former NCC guy myself, it's pretty interesting to see just a team walk in and just do what they did. I mean, no one looking at the Lowells, looking at the Hobarts, looking at, again, kind of those high key, the teams that are high profile. Andrean, to see a team kind of walk in and do that, it's, again, kudos to Brian Parker and his guys. And, we kind of see they're going to have some guys this year, and they're looking to repeat. They're looking to kind of be the new NCC kind of top dog.
Yeah, I think when you come in and you sweep the conference like that, all of a sudden everybody's like, all right, we got to refocus. We've got to pick it up another notch. Because now it's like, hey, we got, like you said, new kid on the block, and they came in and won the conference, and they ended up 11-1 last season. Everybody is now refocused. And we're going to see if anybody's going to step up and try and knock them off of the pedestal.
Let me ask you this, Jay. As a coach, everybody's kind of got standards, right? They have goals that they want to achieve, and maybe they don't share that with maybe they have certain goals that they say in front of the team, and then they have like goals kind of behind closed doors. You win your conference outright. What's the next goal after? Where would you want to take this team this year? What should Coach Parker be setting the standard at? We're going to get to this point. We're not going to accept anything less.
Well, I think every year Coach Parker is always going, well, we want to go to a state championship. I mean, that's everybody's goal. I mean, when you have the list of goals, it's first win your conference. Then it's going to go undefeated, in the non-conference, and then it's to win sectional. Then it's to win. So they're building and they're going in the right direction. It's just, can they get that next step? And that's something Coach Parker is going to. I'm sure he's been pushing all summer long, ever since their loss last season. I'm sure that's what he's been pushing in the weight room and getting kids into other sports. At Hanover, I'm sure they've got probably a big portion of those kids are playing multiple sports, and that's what you want. You want kids training. Like I remember last year, a bunch of kids from the Crown Point team were wrestlers. Well, guess what? Wrestlers made great defensive players. So so the transition. So I think that's one of the things that Hanover, probably been preaching all year and saying, hey, we won this conference, but we didn't win it by enough, or we didn't push ourselves hard enough to get to that next round in the playoffs.
Sure. I mean, you think about their loss last year, again, West Lafayette in the sectional championship. I mean, they had that game won. I mean, double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. Could have done this, could have done that, whatever you could say. It's easy to say now, but, a few plays away, and then they're playing for a regional championship, and we're having maybe a different conversation. So I bet, Coach Parker and his staff kind of grinded that in his kid's head, but they're doing it right over there, again, to keep harping over. I mean, I was fortunate enough, again, to talk with him kind of this offseason, and, I mean, they got developmental programs they got going in there in the high school. They're doing whatever they can to kind of nurture these athletes and get them ready to play football on Friday nights. And again, it's the new talk of the town at Hanover Central.
And we'll move on here in just a second. But and a lot of coaches do this, but one that always sticks out to me is Coach Parker in the sense of promoting his guys, whether it be on social media, following them or supporting them at the other sports that you're talking about that they're playing. He's there watching, he's there supporting, he's promoting them on social media as well, which helps them kind of get looks at different levels as well. Other coaches do that, obviously, but one guy that really stands out to me that does that for his guys is Coach Parker. So we talk about a player's coach. He's like one of the standards.
I definitely agree in terms of, I think there's kind of a hierarchy in terms of just promoting guys. Hanover's up there. Morton is fantastic. They recruit their guys like crazy. And it's kind of them two, from what I could remember right now. They do a great job. And again, Hanover, they're the Lake Show. They crown themselves that, something they kind of came up with. It's just an exciting phrase. They kind of base themselves off of those Showtime Lakers, and they're proving it so far.
And Brian, I'm waiting for that check in the mail a little bit later. All right, let's move on now to waiting for. Let's go get for Hobart, team that I'm going to see week 1 of the season. Excited to see them.
I just want to throw this one thing out. You look at this conference, and now all of a sudden you've got 3 new head coaches coming in.
That's true.
That's the big talk of the town.
And Coach Schreiber, yes, of course, he was in the program last year, but still 3 new different directions for 3 different teams. That's going to be interesting for the conference. That's
what this Hobart Brickies team has got. New head. I mean, he's been with the program, but new head coach, and we're running the show now. So it's going to be interesting to see what this Brickies team brings.
Yeah, we kind of talk. We look at those kind of former head coaches. You got your Don Halls. I mean, even Craig Osika built up such a legacy, But, I mean, now you bring in kind of Eric Schreiber Jr., a proven guy. He obviously did some great things at Westside. Comes from a football family, obviously, from his father. I mean, it's a young dude kind of walking into. That's Hobart football, and I mean, we look at the history of them. Maybe they don't have the, what they did in the '80s, the '90s. Going straight to Lucas Oil just about every year, but there's still the Hobart Brickies. The community is fantastic, and he's walking into again Hobart football. He knows that the community trusts him. The board obviously voted him on unanimously. They trust him a lot. Coach Craig Osika, of course, spoke very highly of him. But they got a lot of turnover kind of over there with the roster a little bit. A lot of guys graduated, TJ Caldwell guy, Johnny Sorensen as well, Bradley Gibson. So they're going to have some new faces in some big spots, but I mean, it's the Hobart Brickies. They're going to find a way to kind of be in the mix. And who knows, again, NCC, it always seems to be up for grabs no matter what.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to let Jay talk about his Trojans. What do you got? He's all choked up about him. He's so excited. He's all choked up.
With the new coach coming in, it's going to be, are the kids at Highland going to buy in? I mean, they had Coach Koulianis there for a few years. He started righting the ship, and he started getting the program going in the right direction. Now all of a sudden he's gone. Next man up, is he going to be able to do the same thing? Can the kids buy in this quickly? So it's going to be a transition, because now all of a sudden you got a whole new defense, whole new offense. So it's going to be a transition. We'll have to see what happens with the Trojans. So I think they're going to be a middle of the pack team, and maybe they can have a breakout in years to come once they buy into the new coach.
I feel like whenever I'm out at games and I kind of see the Highland scores coming in, especially working with you, it's always one of those things. Like they always seem to be in that game. They're always right there, and then just something funky happens, and whatever the case may be. So we talked about with Morton kind of making that next step. Maybe that's the Highland Trojans this year with a new coach and people buying in.
Yeah, I was just going to say one quick point that I remember Coach Koulianis at the beginning of the season last year talking about. In the fourth quarter, it seemed like we always shot ourselves in the foot. Whatever kind of mistake it was, he just seemed that Highland just couldn't get over that hump. So maybe this year they can get over that hump. Maybe a new style of coaching for the Trojans might be something what they need.
Yeah, and Coach Ben Gefford, again, a former coach of mine, I know he's going to have his guys right. He's an energetic dude, but he's a realist. He knows what he's getting into. It may be an uphill battle for them, but nonetheless, he's hoping to get those kids out there, kind of build up the culture of Highland football, and eliminate kind of those mental errors. Whatever that's a penalty, that's a dropped ball, it's a mishap in the huddle. He's the right guy for the job. Again, I trust him a lot. Great dude. And he's hopefully going to have Highland back kind of in the forefront in no time.
All right, I'll let Jay talk about Highland. I'll let Mike talk about the Munster Mustangs.
Yeah, another new head coach, Robinson St. Louis, coming from Elkhart. Yeah, Munster kind of same kind of deal. A team that found themselves in a few games of late, but obviously having a new system. New head coach. They were kind of one of those offenses. They ran the wishbone a lot. They had a fantastic running back, Daniel Askedam, who's no longer with the program. Graduated, obviously. But, yeah, a lot of change going on over there. Munster hoping to kind of string out some wins. And, again, that's another kind of uphill battle, hoping to kind of get the kids out there and eventually turn those close losses, hopefully, into some wins and get their name back in the conference. It's been a little bit since I've been playing there. We've been kind of in the mix for the conference, so they're hoping to try and, kind of reinvigorate that program, finally get an outside hire, which, something Munster hasn't done in a while with the long tenured coaches they've had there. So we're going to see. That's all we could do. It's week one, and they got a big test coming week one, of course.
All right, now we talked about programs with a lot of energy that come from their fan base. Probably one of the teams that absolutely does it right out there is the Lowell Red Devils.
Yeah, I love going to their games. I love the crowd. They're one of the fan bases that it is loud. And just it seems like every time we do a game, they've got a guy with a cowbell right next to our crowd mic. I don't know what it is. It just seems like in years past, that guy knows exactly where we put that crowd mic, and he sits right in front of it.
Chris Ramirez has paid that gentleman to go right by you, so that way it's only whenever you do a broadcast, only when you do it. So
no more cowbell over there for sure.
And then new turf going up on that. It's not going to be the grass that it always has been. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, how about that? I love the Inferno with the grass. But hey, so many. Yeah. We're going to see a trend here.
I miss that.
We're going to see we're going to see a trend here as well, though. A lot of these schools, again, a lot of these communities are buying into their programs and getting new facilities. We mentioned Bishop Knoll already. Chesterton getting, spoiler alert, they're going to have new turf as well. We're going to talk about them.
All the spoiler alerts.
I know, plenty of them. But Lowell, again, putting turf down. Obviously, money going into that facility. But, program, again, rowdy fans. They're looking to kind of get back on track. A rough season last year, but they're hoping to kind of right the ship.
Always love a good RDP chant. All right, let's talk about the Cougars of Kankakee Valley.
Yeah, 5-6 last year. I think Coach Kennedy's got him going in the right direction. I think he's got like we talk about, he's got the kids buying into what he's selling, and he's got the community coming around him. So I think the Cougars could make some noise this year.
It's always fun when the Cougars are making noise, and then I've heard a lot of good things about those Andrean players out there, and a team that maybe down a little bit last year compared to where they were the last few years with Bowen now gone, but a team that's going to put themselves right back into the forefront of the conversation for conference champion.
Yeah, it's we know about Andrean's schedule, not a 2A school, but not a 2A schedule. They're going to start things up pretty quickly, so that's always going to be tough. On the record, again, it may not always show what this team could truly do on the field. Again, it was rough for them last year, and they have a very similar schedule, but they got some guys coming back. A lot of guys committed to play at the next level, and some guys getting good looks. But they're a sleeper team in this conference, and again, it could be very wide open. I could pick 3-4 teams to finish at the top of this conference for sure.
All right, moving on to the Duneland Athletic Conference, and let's start with a team that also is going to look very different this year. Not only, new quarterback, you're going to have a new main running back. Your defense is going to look a little bit different. And, hey, you have a new head coach as well, the Lake Central Indians. And you think Pete Koulianos goes to Lake Central and he's thinking to himself, oh, okay, I don't have to play Munster anymore. Oh, week 1. There we go.
He's got the Houdini against I think he's got the all-time amount of wins out of any coach at Highland in Highland history against.
So maybe he was looking forward to it.
Oh, yes, he is. Yeah.
He's got that.
But it seems like it's a turnstile. It seems like every 3 or 4 years or so that Lake Central gets a new head coach. So, and I think part of the hire for Coach Koulianos was that he went to school there, and I think that's where, and plus his record, and building up the Hanover program and putting Highland back in the right direction. I think those things really helped him, and he's going to have to put the pieces together. It seems like every time somebody comes in there, they try to put the pieces together, and then it's like a house of cards. They get it built up, and then all of a sudden
they get certain pieces of that together.
Yes, and it just seems like it falls apart.
Yeah, and it is going to be interesting again. And looking at his career, starting kind of at Hanover, we know what he did there, kind of put that program on the forefront. But a smaller school then goes to Highland, does kind of the same thing, kind of gets them, reinvigorates that culture. But now we go to Lake Central, a 6A school. That's a lot of players you got to kind of manage in a way, and it could be a challenge for really any coach, kind of first year, kind of going into that big of a school.
And this was a team that was in the state, or not the state, it was in the sectional championship game last year.
Sure.
So, I mean, certainly was in the right direction. So we'll see if he can keep that trend going in the right direction. I know everyone that I talk to, whether it's LC people or outside, I haven't heard one bad thing about Coach Koulianos. So I know for a lot of Lake Central fans, that gives them a little bit of ease and a little bit of excitement about what to expect for this year. Because there's a lot of questions, and not a lot of people know what to expect out of Lake Central this year.
Oh, he's a great dude. I mean, he's a player's coach. He, again, being from Lake Central, going to Lake Central, knowing what it takes, what he's been kind of doing is bringing players back from the past and trying to bridge the past with the present and reinvigorate that LC culture and community around the football program.
All right, let's go to the other team with the mascot of Indians. Let's talk about the Portage Indians, team that. Well, they're on the bubble, but what did you say about their record last year, Mike?
Yeah, it was the record,
wasn't where they were hoping.
Wasn't where they, first year that kind of rebuild, Roy Richards going in. It's tough. It's tough. 0-10. We mentioned kind of the difference between the first and the second year. First year as a head coach, you're trying to figure out, okay, we took the job, but it's a whole different beast when you realize actually what you're getting into. You see it on paper, but then once you kind of see it in action, it's like, okay, here we go. And obviously, not a ideal first season for Portage, but we're going to get into them later, but I think they could shock some people this year, to say the least.
Because when you become a varsity head coach, I don't care what sport you're talking about, and Jay, you can talk to this, you're not just picking up the varsity team right there. You are worried about JV, you're worried about freshmen, you're worried about middle school, you're worried about the other teams, the community teams that are playing, because you're watching, you want to keep your kids in the community to play for your program.
Sure.
There is so much that goes on the plate of a varsity coach, and it's a year-round job. It doesn't just start when IHSAA says your season starts. It's a year-round commitment. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it's a 24/7 thing, and it's just, depending on, it doesn't matter what sport you're in.
Right.
It is a 24/7 thing. You've got like you said, you got to worry about the lower levels, and especially as a new coach coming in. I remember, back when I was coaching at LC, especially middle school, and then, the head coaches would bring all the middle school coaches in, and they would, sit down and talk with us. Hey, what are you guys doing? This is what I want from you.
Yeah.
And then so that I'm sure Roy did that with his middle schools, and and he's trying to build that program up. Year two, it's, now all of a sudden you're seeing, okay, now do I have these freshmen and sophomore and juniors buying into what I'm selling? He's worried about those guys right now, and he's still worried about those lower levels, but right now his main focus has got to be with these guys right now. And you talk about a player's coach. Roy is the guy to be a player's coach. He's going to make sure these guys are in class on time, doing the right things, being in in school all day long, all year long. He's the type of guy that does that. I worked with Roy a couple 34 years ago at East Chicago when we both first started coaching, and he's just that type of guy. He worries about the kids. He's gung ho about it, and he hasn't changed since I started with him 34 years ago. So he's the right guy to put in that driver's seat, I think.
Couldn't agree more.
I think so too. Again, we kind of mentioned Pete Culiano's first year going into a big school like that. It was just the same for Roy Richards. It's a different beast when you get to that level,
Yes,
and you
it
need
is.
a lot of people kind of behind you to kind of support. You mentioned that you have to kind of look at all levels, 8th grade, even freshman, JV. You have to kind of get all these players and monitor them and hope build up for the future as well as the present. And yeah, it's a learning curve, but I think year 2, again, we mentioned Roy Richards being the right guy for the job. Me and Zach Miller, I don't know if there's anybody in the region who saw more summer football, and we saw Portage at a scrimmage, and I left there, and I'm like, I want to play for Roy Richards. He
still can.
Personal, yeah, right. Yeah, right. But like, we were trying to grab him for an interview, and I almost I felt bad trying to bug him because he was just so locked in. Like, if I went up to him and I'm like, hey, coach, is now a good time? He would have freaking torn my head off. I mean, he's an awesome dude. He's he's a player's coach, and again, I think he's the right guy for this job, and I think he gets Portage going in the right direction in year 2.
All right, let's talk about the LaPorte Slicers. I'm going to bring up just switch to baseball for just a second. They had Coach Schellinger out there for the longest time, and then you got Mark Schellinger that just won a baseball state championship. So that's always a fun, little connection to bring around, and a congratulations to the Schellinger family. But let's talk about Slicer football.
Yeah, they're hoping to get back on track a little bit, kind of found at the bottom of the mix there in the Duneland outside of Portage. But, second-year head coach Austin Apple, they removed the interim title from him, so obviously they see something there. I know they have some younger pieces. Again, like most teams, of course, you're going to graduate some senior talent, but they open up against a rival, New Prairie. They won that game last year, and things kind of fell after that first week. Big win, obviously, against a fantastic New Prairie team. They're going to see another great New Prairie team this year, and they're hoping to kind of win that first game and then kind of ride the ships and hopefully kind of turn things around for Slicer football.
All right, let's move on now to Michigan City, the Wolves. One of my favorite places to go watch a game over there, to watch the Michigan City team. Another community that really has their teams back.
Yeah, they're 6-5 last year, so I think they're moving in the right direction. It's always a grind when you're playing in the Duneland, especially you got Maryville, Crown Point, Chesterton, Valpo, Lake Central thrown in there. It's going to be a grind for them. So, but I see them making some noise this year.
That was a big win against Lake Central last year. They got that in that final second or whatever they call it. That was a very close play, and it's always that kind of thing is a momentum builder for a team. They think back and they're like, yeah, we can pull it out and get those kind of wins.
Yeah, kind of the one thing I realized, kind of looking at the team from 2 years ago that I think had 2 wins in the team previously, who I think they scrapped at about 500. They didn't really know how to win games 2 years ago. A lot of close losses, and then we look at last year. You mentioned that Lake Central game, which was an absolute thriller, and they had some other close games that they just found ways to win. Cody French going in his second year, the former Calumet head football coach, now in second year at City. He's got some guys, again, a couple graduated, Jaden Hart being one of them, the current Syracuse running back, as well as their quarterback who, started, I think, for 3 years. But they got a great receiving core, and Adrian Holly, he's going to Kansas, D-end. You need a good D-end, especially in this kind of pass-heavy Duneland, and we see just the passing game just evolve seemingly every day. And Adrian Holly, that's a great starting piece to have for City.
All right, let's move on to Valparaiso, just a couple years removed from that state championship. Always a fun team to watch. Always seem to have the right guys at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, they're going to have to find them this year. It's, again, always a fantastic program. They're always consistent, always find ways to be in the mix come November, but I know they lost a lot of talent kind of from those previous 2 teams that were both very solid state championship team 2 years ago. And a lot of expectations going into the previous season, some injuries, and obviously that great game against Maryville that just slipped out of their hands just like that. Now they're moving to kind of this era and a lot of new faces, especially on that defensive side. But I know Bill Marshall, from what we've seen, he always kind of gets his guys right.
Yeah, and the thing is, you always open up against Penn, so
that'll be a good one.
Yes, it will be.
I mean, when you boost your schedule like that, that's what gets you ready for sectionals and regionals and all that kind of stuff. Like that kind of a schedule helps boost you for those types of runs. Yeah,
it's cool seeing kind of these teams, especially in the Duneland, scheduling these out of conference opponents. Some schools are going, like Lake Central, they're going up to Michigan. I think week 2, playing a great team We see like Morton, although they're not a Duneland, they're trying to schedule, get ready for the 5A playoffs and 6A as well. It's not going to be easy. Crown Point, we're going to talk about them, but they got a great matchup in week 2 as well.
All right, Chesterton Trojans, a team that's kind of looking to bounce back a little bit this year. Maybe not the record they were looking for last year, but trying to get back in the hunt.
Yeah, they're going to have a fun one week 1 as always. Hobart and Chesterton, that's going to be a fun game. But, yeah, they're looking to bounce back. Again, they're kind of in the bottom third of that conference. And that's another community. Again, they're hungry. They always seem to have great athletics and football. They're hoping to kind of bring that back up to speed. And, longtime head coach Mark Peterson, he's hoping to get his guys right. And, obviously, it starts quick for Chesterton.
Yeah, 2-8 last year, so they got to put some pieces back together, right to ship.
Yeah, and again, another community, that Chesterton community, always supporting their teams no matter what. All right, Jay, you've got the Maryville Pirates to open up. We're kind of giving spoiler alerts on who's calling games here. You've got the Maryville Pirates along with week 1 here. Obviously a team that's always in that upper echelon of the Duneland Athletic Conference,
sure.
Always there, always gives Crown Point, Valpo really tough games, and always a fun team to watch.
Yeah, they are, and you know what? They love to go vertical. And that's one of the things I love about them. They like to just chuck that ball down the field. Then once they get everybody thinking deep, then they go underneath with some screenplays, some draws. But they got, man, it just seems like they are kicking out great athletes year in, year out. They got guys going Division I all the time, and 10-3 last year. Kicked Valparaiso out of the playoffs last year, so they've got some momentum coming their way, and it's going to be a horse race between them, I think, and Crown Point for the Duneland.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's a fun place to play too. I think Purple Palace, I thought that's kind of a self-anointed nickname of their stadium, but they do a great job. They're one of the more consistent teams, as we've seen from Brad Cease, what he's done with his guys. Although a semi-state loss last year, they're kind of, again, right the ship, no pun intended. They got some guys coming back. Again, you mentioned kind of the schemes. They like to go deep. They also got a great running back coming back in J.Q. Johnson, also always a stifling defense, it seems like, over there. They have some next-level commits, Trenton Nixon, Adam Camphor. They got some guys playing at the next level, and they do also a great job at promoting their athletes. One funny tidbit about them, when the new college football video game came out, they posted, you mentioned the next level athletes, and they posted a slideshow about 5 former Maryville athletes who are in the game. One of them being Kenneth Grant, a fantastic D tackle for Michigan, but they got a lot of good guys over there, and they just pump them out, like you said.
Yes.
All right, and then a team that had like a meh kind of season last year, the Crown Point Bulldogs. They were okay out there in the Duneland, and made just a minor appearance in the state championship game. Ho hum for them this past year, right?
They made some noise. Talk about a community as well. We mentioned how fun that week was at Cal Ripken. But that's becoming a sports city like no other around here. Again, the power that a great football team does to a city of that caliber too. I mean, it really reunites the people together, and yeah, there's not much more we could say about them.
I mean, you talk about, and I know other communities do this as well, but living there myself, I get to drive around the community and see kind of what happens on a Friday night. But the fun thing about Crown Point is they really they sell the city sells their athletes. Like I said, I know other school or other communities do this, but they'll have like banners on the street lights of their players and their uniforms, and no matter what season it is, no matter what gender or sport or whatever the case is, they've got their athletes displayed on there. They want their community behind this entire thing, and they'll spray paint windows with Go Bulldogs and all that kind of stuff. So just a community, like you said, is starting to. It always has been, but it's just really coming up, and they are at the upper echelon of like almost every sport you can think of right now. I mean, a girls' state championship not that long ago. Boys basketball made it down to semi-state this past year. You and I had the call of that one here from the studio, and it's a fun community right now. It's just bursting with a lot of positivity all over the place.
And one thing is, we talked about it before we started doing the show. It seems like we've been calling Noah Ehrlich's name for the last 10 years, since he was a freshman, and now, it's showtime for him coming into his senior year.
Yeah, it feels like we've been calling his name for 10 years. It's insane. I can't wait to watch him this year. It should be a lot of fun, along with everyone on that Crown Point team. And we got a chance to cover that ring ceremony not that long ago. That was so much fun to be able to do that. And people were looking at us like, "Oh, we make sure you make sure you show our kid, make sure you show our kid." And we're like, "We're trying." And then we had just great interviews with the players that were more than happy to talk with us for a little bit, and how much this past season meant, and I'm sure how much this season is going to mean as well.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Buzz, too, we had a chance to talk to. I would talk with him a little bit this offseason. That coaching staff, I mean, you kind of see the guys they make up on that coaching staff. And credit to Coach Buzz, obviously, he's the ringleader of it all. But when I talked with him, I mean, there's not much me when he's saying
right.
talking. This is a team effort. Hey, I got assistants over here. I got his wife is big in kind of organizing the touchdown club and all that stuff, doing all the stuff for the kids, all the team moms as well. But it's again, the community. It's so tight knit from the staff to Coach Buzz to the players to the parents around them. It's just a sight to see for sure.
Yeah, I just remember one thing when we interviewed Coach Buzz last summer is. He goes, I let my guys, I get out of their way, and he'll rein them in here and there, but boy, he lets them take off and go, and he trusts the coaches, and I think that's a great tribute to his staff.
I mean, what a coaching staff. I mean, just looking, I don't know, they post all the time on their socials, and I'm seeing a new hire, and it's, this guy did this with this school, and now he's, coming to Crown Point, hoping to do some more. And it's like, yeah, they're going to be all right. They got some good players, but a great coaching staff as well.
Building leaders, that is for sure. And we want more Coach Buzz dance videos from the locker room. We want more of that content.
There'll be plenty of them.
100%. All right, we're going to step aside for just a moment, and we're going to start breaking down our top 10. We're going to start with our bubble teams, though, because our committee that makes this top 10, I have questions. So we're going to make sure we talk about all of that right here coming up on the Tech Tailgate Show from the Centier Bank Studios on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
With electrical services from Economy Electric Heating and Cooling, you can radiate the perfect amount of light and energy into your home. From rewiring and code upgrades to ceiling fans, lighting, security, and more, Economy Electric Heating and Cooling's trained electricians will make sure you can enjoy your home on full power all the time. For a free estimate on electrical work, call Economy Electric Heating and Cooling at 219-923-4441, and you can visit them on the web at 4ajobdoneright.com. That's the number 4ajobdoneright.com.
Have you checked out Centier Bank's student checking account? This no-fee checking account is perfect for students and teens ages 14 to 24 and comes with all the features you need to succeed, such as a debit card, digital banking, and automatic deposit. Centier Bank can help you start establishing good spending habits today for your better tomorrow. For more information, visit Centier.com/student-checking or visit your local branch. If you are under the age of 18, your parent or guardian must also sign on the Centier student checking account. At the age of 25, your account will automatically convert to the Centier checking account. You must deposit $25 to open this account. This account is not eligible for overdraft advantage. Member FDIC.
Welcome back in to the Centier Bank Studios. This is the Tech Tailgate Show brought to you by the Tech Credit Union. Michael Brander back here with Mike Dewan and Jay Simmons. All right, gentlemen, we've got a top 10 that we've already put out. I don't know who's on this committee. They always do a great job no matter who is on it. I know it's like the Electoral College. You don't know who it is, but somebody's doing some work somewhere behind closed doors. Let's start with our bubble teams, and I have questions, galore. I'm not going to get too intense on these, but I want to get some thoughts from you guys. All right, KV on a bubble team. All right, KV, always one of those teams that always is kind of there in terms of a team that can be in the upper echelon, but can also be hanging out at the bottom, can also be out of the poll. They're always just kind of in there, kind of hanging around that top 10.
Yeah, a big first week against Rensselaer, a game that they lost last year. But Kirk Kennedy, we can only say so much about him, but an iconic coach as they come around here, and he's third year coming up for him. He's hoping it was a steady first season. Second year, obviously, they were a few plays away from beating New Prairie, the eventual sectional champion. And now we're hoping for a third year, another jump, and we got them on the bubble to start.
He's already been giving all the spoilers.
Committee.
Is he doing a Freudian slip right there?
But yeah, they got some guys. Marco Castro's a great running back over there. Diego Arroyo has plenty of snaps under center, and they got some guys returning. And hey, if they get the job done against Rensselaer, their only path is up. And the NCC being as open as ever, why not? Why not?
I try to save the people from, I call it the committee, so that way there's no hate mail coming in.
The lights are too bright, man. The camera's on. What could you do?
All right, other bubble teams to talk about. You got River Forest, and we got West Side on here as well as bubble teams.
Two GSSC teams you kind of talked about a little bit before. They could make some noise. They're going to find themselves kind of in the middle of the pack, hopefully trying to gun for those division titles. And they got some players that are going to play on both sides of the ball. Two great coaches that are only kind of pushing those programs up and trying to get back in kind of the limelight of region football. But just two teams that could find themselves winning the division and competing with the Wheelers and Boone Groves of their respective divisions.
All right, here's where I've got questions. We've got Portage on the bubble. All right, obviously a phenomenal coach that's we're looking to kind of bounce this program back. I'm going to be showing my bias here, obviously, but my question is going to be: is the reason that Portage would get a bubble spot over a team like Lake Central, who was in a sectional championship last year, is it because there's the coach and the team is known for the most part? Because we kind of know what we're going to get from Portage to an extent. We're looking for the upward swing. We know the coach has proven his second year in his position. For Lake Central, you have a very proven coach, and we've talked about his track record, but we just don't know what he's going to have in terms of talent for Pete Koulianis and Lake Central. So why would we go committee-wise with Portage on a bubble versus a team like Lake Central? And could a really dominant performance by Lake Central or Munster put them in the bubble category or even maybe in that top 10?
Yeah, that's the beauty of week one. We don't truly know what a team looks like. I mean, we see about the scrimmages, but when it's Friday night and the lights are really on, the referees are there, the stands are packed, that's a different ball game. And Portage, they're going to have a fun matchup week one. We're going to talk about that later. Lake Central, a team against Munster that they've been pretty consistent with over the last few years, but then they go up to Michigan eventually. But kind of the reason why our committee ranked this was, Portage, again, seeing kind of what they did in scrimmages, going out to some of these scrimmages. Me personally, I was super impressed, and that was my first interaction with Roy Richards, but he's got his guys fired up. They got a younger team, a young quarterback who's only a junior in Cody Young, but he's going to play his third year under center. He's going to only get better, but their defense, I mean, it was truly fun seeing them fly to the ball, get as many red hats on the ball as they can. And I think, again, against Morton, that's going to be a fun home opener against them, and they could make some noise in the Dune. And I like what they got. Lake Central, again, if they put up a dominant performance against Munster, and if they string together a couple in the deck, they could find themselves on this list. But losing a guy like Xavier, losing a guy like their former quarterback, some other guys as well, they got some pieces to replace, and we're just going to have to see how those kind of trickle out in these first few weeks for the Tribe.
And I want to add, just throw in a little tidbit there for Portage. I did a couple of their games last year. It seemed like they were hanging in the first quarter and about halfway through that second quarter, and then all of a sudden the pieces just fell apart.
Was it last year?
They came out and shocked Crown Point right in that first quarter. I think they were up.
Was it the Lake Central game though, where it was just out of? Was that last year where it was like just out of the fingertips, and they would have beaten Lake Central had there been a catch, or was that 2 years ago? I forget exactly, but it's like It was one of those things that's like just that short on that kind of thing. And if you make that completion, then obviously this is why this team is on, in the bubble and making a contention for top 10. So it's not a bad team. It just hit some bumpy spots in their schedule
Sure.
and rough points. All right, top 10. Do you want to go? You want to start 10 and go 1, or you want to go 1 to 10?
Let's move on up. Let's start 10
and move our way up. Moving on up. All right, let's start with Boone Grove coming in at number 10. The committee likes Boone Grove.
Boone Grove, number 10. Oh, we got the blue lights
Oh, here we
How
go.
about that? Now we're having some fun here. But they're a fun program. I talked about their fun offense as well. But they have a lot of pieces that have been with that program and have really seen it all. They're one of a few more schools that are getting some new digs. They opened up kind of their new facility last year. But they have some guys. Mark Rowland is their quarterback I was kind of alluding to earlier, who put up, really video game numbers you don't really see from quarterbacks around here. I think he had over 2,500 passing yards, accounted for 42 total touchdowns, and is going into his 4th year as a starter under center. They got some other guys, again, playing, I think, Khalid Azir, Hunter Anthony, some other guys that, again, have been with that program, started for a few years, and now it's super cool for them to kind of start their season with a true home opener. They were playing at Valparaiso for as long as I could remember for their home field, but now finally they have a true home field, and I think they could really make some noise and hopefully repeat as division champs.
Yeah, and when you talk about experienced quarterback, the only other quarterback I can think of right now playing in his 4th season is Noah Ehrlich, and all of a sudden, so you put those two guys in the same sentence. You've got two great quarterbacks, and I think that you're right. Boone Grove can make some noise.
Looking at their offense, we saw a couple scrimmages of them, and it's a college offense. They spread out the field. They're truly fun to watch. They lost a couple receivers from last year, which is why we kind of had them a little bit lower, only at the 10 spot. But Mark Rowland, he finds a way to just get the ball to anybody's hands and make a play. So,
all right, we're going up to 9. We're staying in the GSSC, and we're going with
light show.
Yeah, this is a true light show here.
Adjust your eyes here, man.
I think I see that. Yep, nope, it's Wheeler, folks. It's Wheeler.
The Bearcats, another GSSC team, like you mentioned, they won their respective division last year. The reigning head coach coming back, the reigning GSSC head coach, I should say, as the orange turns on here. But they got, again, Caleb Klimzak is their quarterback coming back. He had a fantastic season for his junior campaign in 23. Bryce Compton is a name to look out for. He's a fun wide receiver / DB who has track speed, and I think it's our prediction. I think it's kind of their division to lose. I want to say this conference is very, these divisions as well, very competitive, and there's a lot of teams that could find themselves in the mix. But Wheeler, they're doing things right over there. That's another program that's really kind of shot up, although they're kind of, I think, at the 2A level. It seems like they're really kind of riding the ship over there and making that program well known.
All right, our next one, number 8, we're going to the NCC. You've got the Hobart Brickies coming in. I'm excited to see them week 1. I've had them week 1 the last couple of years. I'm excited to see them and what they've got against Chesterton.
That's going to be a tough first 2 weeks for Hobart, as always. It starts with on the road at Chesterton, then opening up at the Brickyard against Maryville. So we'll see. Chesterton, they're hungry. They're looking to kind of get back on track. And Maryville, we know they're a solid team as ever. But a bunch of new faces all over the field. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to be that guy at the quarterback position. I know they're kind of working that out. Obviously, Sorensen was that dude last year. Some defensive pieces as well that has since graduated. But Hobart, they always find themselves in the mix.
And Josh, if you're watching, can't wait to see you, buddy.
Well, I was just going to mention that, last year when we did the pigskin preview, talking with the previous head coach, and he said, you know what? I go, do you really like your athletic director? Or does he not like you because you've got 2 dueling conference teams back-to-back week 1 and 2? And he goes, no, I want it that way. And he goes, if I can survive with minimal amount of injuries to my starters, then we come out of there, we're ready to roll through the conference. And I applaud him for that. I wish more schools would, step up another level to try and do, play some teams in their non-conference schedule up above them.
I love it.
It's hard for a dueling school to do something like that.
Well, that's what I mean.
Those 2 weeks you can still bump up and you can get some. You can beef up that schedule a little bit.
Go to Indianapolis and play somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. But basketball, we always talk about beefing up the schedule. So when you get a chance to do that, it just makes it all the more fun. Staying to the NCC, going up to number 7, and we've got the Andrean 59ers. Jay, you're going to see them week 1 here in a couple of days, and apparently there's a lot of hype to this team coming in.
Yeah, Coach Skinner, man, he's 3-7, I think, last year. Is that what I wrote down? Yeah, 3-7. So they've got it going in the right direction here. I can't see my notes now. We're in the light out.
There we go.
But no, it seems like we talked about it a little while ago. They've got some more pieces coming together, and it's going to be an interesting. It's teams can't stay always on the top, especially a Catholic school like that. You're riding all those waves with all those great players from the previous years, and then all of a sudden now you're going to take a little dip, because when some kids see those schools doing well and not playing underclassmen, they're going to go somewhere else. So now they got the ship righted, and maybe see what they're going to see what's going to happen with them Friday night.
Yeah, and you could look at that record from last year, and we kind of alluded to this before, but I mean, they schedule tough. We mentioned there, I think they play. Not only do they play Valparaiso and Maryville, but they also, I think they host Chittard this year. They went down there about late season last year, but this time they host them. Those are 3 tough games, just looking outside of the NCC, but I think they may have the best overall player in the area with Jimmy Finley, the Northern Illinois commit. He plays wide receiver and DB. That's a name to look out for, the 3-sport athlete. They also, Ben Novak's a highly touted offensive lineman. He's a guy to kind of build around. They do lose one of their top passers, arguably in program history, in Scotty Ballantyne, but they're hoping to kind of right the ship. I've heard some great things about Andrean so far, and they're hoping to kind of get things rolling in a fun first game against Maryville.
I was just checking here. I'm just making sure I have this right, because I'm seeing 9 on my sheet. So I'm just making sure I got this right here. I don't want to miss anybody for sure. And I know where we met. I got it. We'll fix it. I got it. All right.
Congratulations.
By the way, his notes, he had like 1. He had one note that he couldn't see.
That was on the back side.
he had 1 note he couldn't see. That was all that he missed out on. All right, let's move up now the line. We've got lots of notes. Yeah, it's all the same word written down multiple times to make it look better.
There you go.
I've caught on to your system. All right, moving up. Number 6, you got the Michigan City Wolves. This is always a fun team every single year. They're always kind of right in the middle of that pack right there. No pun intended.
No pun intended. There we go, Mike. The Wolves, again, I think it starts with Adrian Holly, the Kansas commit. I think I mentioned Jimmy Finley might be the best overall player in the area, but having a defensive end like Adrian Holly, Kansas commit, he really shot up, and he's kind of got all the intangibles and all the physical traits you need at the DN position. And we mentioned the pass-heavy Duneland, these expanded offenses, people doing so many different things nowadays, and Adrian Holly having a dude like that come off the edge. They have a fantastic defense as well, but he's a good start.
The thing is, then, when you look at him coming off that edge, now all of a sudden you're going to have to adjust for that 1 week. You're going to have to slide your protection, and Michigan City, I'm sure, going to be smart and move him around.
Sure.
But you're going to have to find out where he lines up every play and adjust your protection to try and slow him down. And you may not be able to stop him, but at least you're going to put 2 hats on him every play.
No doubt about it. I know they had a pretty solid young receiving core. They lost a couple guys to graduation, but they got a younger receiving core that could help out whoever quarterback they have kind of under center. But they're kind of hoping to be that team in the middle of the pack of the Duneland and potentially be competitive with kind of that upper echelon of teams that are in that conference.
All right, moving up, number 5, you got the Governors of Morton. I mentioned how, I always say that there's kind of like that one. It's tough, though, when you get to sectionals, and it's like you get Maryville to start things up. That's tough.
For some reason, it's hard to believe they're a 5A school, but again, Hammond being so big and consolidating, that enrollment's been going up for Morton. But looking at these players, again, talk about next-level talent. I think they may have the best offensive player maybe in the area. LeBron Hill, future Boilermaker wide receiver for them. He really kind of took national storm. I know he's doing fantastic things nationally, playing tournaments, whatever, 7-on-7s. He's doing some great things, but he's going to be fantastic for the Governors. He also has a great mate kind of in the backfield, Holland Harris, the quarterback, the recent Indy commit. They just do a great job, of course, marketing their guys, as I mentioned, but these guys are the real deal. Freddie Brown as well, a couple other guys playing at the next level. Morton, again, they're kind of looking to put the pieces together, string these games together, and again, a big first week test against Portage. And I know they have some other big time kind of non-conference matchups in that conference of 3 they got going on.
All right, moving up to number 4, it's the Lake Show with Hanover Central.
Yeah, it's they're hoping to kind of right the ship again, kind of do their thing, and they graduated a pretty strong senior class. I think that's the most winning senior class in Hanover Central football history. So there's going to be some new faces. Matt Kuntz was a name their quarterback for a while. Brian Parker, I believe he said it feels like he was at high school forever. So they're trying to replace obviously a big position, but they're the favorite, I think, in the NCC. They have all the tools to repeat. Caden Verrett, he's all you could want as a running back. He can catch the ball. He could run the ball 90 yards. He can get you 2 yards if you need a fourth and short. He could really do it all, and he's going to be an absolute bell cow for Hanover. And again, if LeBron Hill's not the best offensive player, it might be Caden Verrett.
Nice article written on Rocco Bartolomeo and Dylan Bowen as well. Shout out Bartolomeo family. We love you guys. All right, moving up, number 3, we've got the Valparaiso Vikings. Always a fun team to watch, and always in that top 4, if not the top 3, it seems like every single year.
They just find a way to get it done.
Yeah, it just seems like we've got out of all these schools, you got 4 from Nadulin, so it's going to be interesting to see who bumps who off.
Yeah,
and the Vikings, 9-3 last season, lost to Maryville in the playoffs, so they've got some talent coming back, but not you mentioned some key losses earlier, so it's going to be interesting to see how these guys shake out.
Yeah, I know that defense is incredibly young, but what Valpo prides himself on is the run game, and I know they got a solid running back and Thomas Berta, and they always find a way to kind of pump out linemen over there and eventually have a running back run for 1,200 yards, it seems like, just about every year. And I bet that's what they're going to pride themselves on this year. So expect them to be hard-nosed, but a lot of new faces, especially on the defensive unit.
I can see them kind of bumping, going head-to-head and bumping slots every once in a while with the team we have at number 2. That's going to be the Maryville Pirates.
That's always a fun little... I don't know if I'd call it rivalry, but they always seem to meet each other. Of course, both classmates in 5A. Obviously, they're well familiar with each other in the regional round especially, but Maryville... Yeah, I give them the edge over there, over Valpo. They have kind of the playmakers. It seems like they just can't lose at home. I think they have some pretty fantastic record playing at home, and it gives them the extra edge always. But they're going to be in the mix. I think they could very well find themselves atop of this Duneland for sure. And again, a bunch of next-level talent, as we kind of mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I think as we go to number 1, it's a pretty easy pick for everybody.
Is it?
In the committee.
Is it? Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Is it unanimous?
It's unanimous.
It's going to be the Crown Point Bulldogs, a team making a state appearance last year, coming up shy, but looking to kind of make that their new target. I think I know coaches are, first goal is we want to win a state championship, but I think when you come down to it, like, let's win the sectionals, let's get, conference and all that kind of stuff. But they've set the tone. Like, we've gone to a state championship. That needs to be the goal this year.
Oh, definitely. They're going to try and repeat again. And, just a quick glance, and I don't know if this is correct, but the last regular season loss was 2021, October 15th to Michigan City.
Wow.
So that's the last regular season. And I don't know what that was, home or away, but that was the last regular season loss.
Not going to lie, that's pretty incredible. This is a team, when you think about Crown Point, I'm seeing everything is turfed over there. I even got their middle schools turfed, all that kind of stuff. They're just building a program from the ground up, and it is becoming a success story almost overnight. They just attack you at all different levels, and they're so deep in all of their positions.
Yeah, it's, of course, being a state runner-up, you obviously had a very talented team, and you're going to lose some pieces from that previous team. Obviously, the Clark brothers, Paul and Will, both playing at Buffalo now. Landon Delich playing at Toledo. A couple other guys that are well-known and obviously, were big pieces to that program. But Noah Ehrlich, you mentioned before the broadcast, it's like we've been calling his name for about 4 years, at least you guys, since he's kind of started his preps career. Larry Ellison, he broke the school record, I think, for yards in a season at the running back position. They just have so many other guys that just find a way to make plays. Trevor Gibbs is a junior coming up. Mark Gonzalez is a fantastic nose guard. They got a very young defense, believe it or not. They're pretty senior heavy maybe on the offensive side, but they got some guys that can not only do some damage this year, but expect it next year as well from the Bulldogs.
And you get them week 1 of the year, so you get to see all that all that entertainment right off the bat. All right, we're going to step aside just one more time or is it 2 more times?
Who's counting?
We'll make it one more time before we get out of here. We're going to go through some of the games that that we're going to see right here on the Region Sports Network, and maybe preview a couple of other ones along the way as well. So you're tuned in to the Tech Tailgate Show, brought to you by Tech Credit Union from the Centier Bank Studios right here on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Have you checked out Centier Bank's student checking account? This no-fee checking account is perfect for students and teens ages 14 to 24 and comes with all the features you need to succeed, such as a debit card, digital banking, and automatic deposit. Centier Bank can help you start establishing good spending habits today for your better tomorrow. For more information, visit Centier.com/student-checking or visit your local branch. If you are under the age of 18, your parent or guardian must also sign on the Centier student checking account. At the age of 25, your account will automatically convert to the Centier checking account. You must deposit $25 to open this account. This account is not eligible for overdraft advantage. Member FDIC.
Four Seasons Mechanical proudly serves Northwest Indiana, providing quality, reasonably priced, reliable service. With a quality and comfort guarantee, the professionals at Four Seasons Mechanical offer a wide range of services in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Whether it's residential or commercial, Four Seasons Mechanical is there 24/7. To find out more, the website is fourseasonsmechanical.com or give them a call at 219-756-7020. Four Seasons Mechanical, your indoor air quality specialist.
Earn while you learn from the best hands in the business. The Bricklayers Allied Craftworkers for Indiana Kentucky Apprenticeship. That's right, this is a paid apprenticeship.
I'm getting an education while learning a trade and getting paid for it.
The thing that surprised me the most about this apprenticeship program is the respect I have received after the proper time and training.
Classes start soon, so apply now. There are training centers throughout Indiana and Kentucky. We are the Bricklayers and Allied Craftworkers for Indiana Kentucky Apprenticeship. The best hands in the business.
Flip the switch, a light turns on. Press the button, machines and instruments come to life. Touch the screen, communicate with the world. Simple tasks, guaranteed results, every second of every day. That's the power of power. And that's the power brought to you by the NECA contractors and electrical workers of Local 531.
We love home internet from T-Mobile. Oh, now Mesh boosts Wi-Fi all over your home. Take a class in your attic, that dead spot is gone. Stream ballet in your man cave, learn to paint on your lawn.
It's glorious.
And now on the road, you can take T-Mobile Wi-Fi with you. Hey, stay connected and watch what you'll do.
Welcome back to the Tech Tailgate Show, brought to you by Tech Credit Union here at the Centier Bank Studios. Michael Brenner here with always keeping it positive, Jay Simmons, and then always keeping it crispy, Mike DeWan here. Love to work with these guys. We got Zach Miller working the production back there. He's having a grand old time. He's laughing, and then Zach Zanelli, he's still supporting the White Sox, so he's having a good time back there as well. All right, we got some interesting games coming up this Friday night right here on the Region Sports Network. Let's start over in the team we were just kind of talking about a little bit, one of our featured games, including our sports director, Mike DeWan, will be on the call for that one. It is Lowell and Crown Point.
What's that, the oldest rivalry in the state of Indiana, right?
It has been, yeah.
So that's always fun. They're going to be
It's been going on about as long as Jay's been coaching.
Oh!
So.
No, we had plastic helmets. This is the leather helmet.
Leather.
This is the leather.
But it's been a rivalry that, again, kind of a roller coaster in a way. Lowell's kind of, they had their a little bit of era where they're, again, playing for state championships and playing for titles left and right. Now we kind of talked about the new standard of region football, and Crown Point's really kind of come up here and and really kind of made a name for themselves in the past 3-4 seasons. And it's going to be a fun one nonetheless. Again, obviously, Lowell program looking to kind of, maybe last year was an anomaly, obviously not maybe up to Lowell standards, and they're hoping to kind of rewrite the ship, but that's an early season test. Going to Crown Point, that place is going to be bumping, and a lot of expectations over there for the CP Bulldogs.
All right, let's go with the Battle of Broadway. Jay, you're going to be at that one. Andrean and Maryville.
You got the upstart hopefully coming back, Andrean team coming back after a tough season, and Mike talked about how many good, one of the best players in the area coming out for Andrean. But the thing is, Maryville's just got so many weapons, and you got guys. The hard part for an Andrean is having so many guys playing both ways. Maryville's running 11 on, 11 off. And that's the same as for special teams. They're running 11 guys. Andrean may run off 4 guys off from when you transition from offense to defense. So I think the weather-wise, if it's a super hot night, it could really work against Andrean. But I think it's going to be a fun one.
They always are when Jay Simmons is on the call. And then we've got our last one. This one is going to be Hobart and Chesterton. I will be on the call for that one, so please still tune in, even if you do it muted. This is always an intriguing one just because, to me, this one is always kind of the standard bearer for you don't take week 1 and judge your team based on week 1. Because this is where, these two teams, they just clash in different ways, and it's always a topsy-turvy matchup. I've had it the last 2 years. I actually never know who's going to get the win by the end of the game. There's no one that stands out right off the bat, this team, they're going to just run away with this one. And a team might get up a couple of touchdowns, but then the other team comes roaring back. This one is always an intriguing matchup week 1.
Yeah, it's one of the more fun non-conference really openers to the season. Yeah, 2 evenly matched teams, it seems like. Always a pretty solid run game, a built-up unit in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And yeah, as you mentioned, you may need a bounce or two to go your way. It's tough to really kind of sit back here and provide some insight and see who may have the upper edge, because it's if a play goes right for Hobart or Chesterton's way, that could be the deciding factor. But it's going to be a fun one regardless, and a big litmus test for both teams that are hoping to really kind of improve on last season. Although Hobart, again, 7-3 record, not bad, but Hobart standards, it's bricky football. They want to win the NCC, and they want to win every trophy imaginable.
I feel like this is the case with a lot of teams week 1, but this one kind of just sticks in my mind. Whoever makes the least amount of mistakes, that's the team that's going to end up winning these games.
I'd say so.
I think week 1 is always kind of that feeling point. Week 1 and 2, it's usually about week 4 where you kind of figure out what team you are and then just trying to get yourself ready for the postseason. But yeah, whoever makes the least amount of mistakes should be able to be the one and the victor in this one. All right, some other interesting games. We've talked about a few of them already, kind of touching on them, so we don't have to get too in depth there. But as you mentioned, the Morton Governors taking on the Portage Indians. Is this, Morton obviously thinking that they're going to be able to do pretty well in this one? If you just look at records, you're like, this should be fine. I don't think so. You can't take this Portage team lightly.
Yeah, it was a close game last year too. I had Morton. Morton scrapped out with a big win against Portage. I want to say it was the first win for a Hammond school against the Duneland since maybe the 80s. I don't know how many games that was. I remember that stat coming out, but that was a big win just for the city of Hammond in the sport of football. But yeah, it's an intriguing matchup. You see on paper, look at these two teams last year, and yeah, you could say it's Morton's game to lose. But again, I'm really high on Portage, and this is a big game overall for the top 10 committee. So,
all right, Jay, how about Highland and Griffith?
Yeah, the Battle of the Bike Path. It's always a fun one, a little rivalry going on right there between the two schools. I mean, it was fun when I played 1,000 years ago, Mr. Bradner.
With a leather helmet.
And, well, at least we had mouthpieces.
It wasn't even a real ball. It was a rock.
A rock. Playing grass.
And I think the upstart team right here is going to be, the Panthers. I think they, Coach Mason's got the ship righted. They, had a rough season last year with only one senior on the team, so it's going to be interesting. I just want to say one little side note. A dear friend of mine passed away this past week, Jeff Bridges, an icon of the town of Griffith, and I just want to say was at the funeral or the wake, and we probably had almost 1,000 people walk through. It was what a show of support.
Yeah, absolutely. That is an integral part of Griffith, that Bridges scoreboard over there, and just a guy lost too soon, and I know that's been hard for you.
Yeah.
So we're sending all our condolences out to everyone in Griffith, and For sure. All right, moving on. Wheeler and Hanover Central.
Yeah, two teams that are pretty familiar with each other back when they were both in the GSSC, Hanover's former conference. But Wheeler, again, this is the top 10 matchup between two teams that are on our list. Wheeler coming in at that 9 spot. It was a closer game. You know, one of the teams that were pretty competitive with Hanover. Looking at last year, Hanover obviously steamrolled most of their teams, but Wheeler, they have a chance to really make some noise with playing at Hanover. I know that's a tough place to play, and they're doing a great job over there. But we're excited to keep track on that score.
Well, do you think just for Wheeler's sake? I mean, you know, Hanover seems to be a class above. Seems like everybody in the region. Do you think if Wheeler keeps it close, do you think that's at least a mental victory for them in week 1?
I say 100%. Yeah, Hanover, they've done really nothing but, you know, kind of sweep the board in the regular season. I think if, in terms of regular season streaks, if Crown Point doesn't have the longest, I think it's Hanover, or it might be 1 and 2. But yeah, if it comes down to maybe a 2-1 score game, that's big for the mentality. And yeah, you walk away week 1 with the loss, but they're hoping to kind of sweep the board in the GSSC again and ride that wave in the playoffs.
All right, let's move on. LaPorte and New Prairie. Always an intriguing matchup week 1.
That's a fun little rivalry. New Prairie, obviously, a big in the 4A, obviously 4A sectional champ, the sectional we're most familiar with around here, but I know that's a fun rivalry. LaPorte got the win last year on a game-winning field goal from Jack Doty. They're hoping to kind of, again, repeat that. Then eventually, it's a big precursor for both these teams. New Prairie, again, we mentioned the 4A school. They're playing up to a 5A. LaPorte, you know, they're in that 5A, and they're playing down on New Prairie. But I don't know, you look at New Prairie, see what they've done in these past few years. LaPorte trying to rewrite, you know, kind of get back on track. New head coach kind of stripping that interim title. It's always a fun rivalry, and you can never really pick a side in kind of those close-knit games.
All right, we won't make predictions then. We won't.
No, God, no.
All right, let's go finally with Valpo at Penn.
Yeah, that's also another fun non-conference one, litmus test for both schools. We can only wait and see.
Was that a few years ago when Valpo lost their first game and then ended up winning state? I
believe it was
2 years ago. Yeah,
okay. 2 years ago they lost to Penn and then they win state. So I mean, that's just to show you what kind of coaching staff they had there that would bounce back from week 1 to all the way down.
And that was also, you know, telling us what we know here on the Region Sports Network, because we were all like, hey, you know, maybe we got to drop Valpo down a little bit. What do they really have this year? And then, whew, there they go. So shows what we know right here, all right?
It should be some fun, though, nonetheless. So,
all right. Gentlemen, I can't wait to get this thing started. It's hard to believe that football season is already back here, but I can't wait to work with this phenomenal RSN crew. As Mike has said, we had a great week over in Crown Point for the Cal Ripken, but turning the page now, the Friday nights and the sweaters and I guess the first couple of weeks is always usually really hot, but the temperatures will drop, and can't wait to get this thing going. I know other people are ready to get football season started. There is nothing better in Northwest Indiana than high school football, so can't wait to get it started, and looking forward to working with this extraordinary group of individuals right here. Again, Zach Miller working the production, doing a phenomenal job as always. Zach Zanelli working really hard behind the camera right now. Actually breaking a sweat working as hard as he is right now. Our sports director, Mike DeWan. Our executive producer, Chris Ramirez. Operations manager, Rich Castillo. He was also breaking a sweat up there. Working the sales and everything like that, and finding papers and everything like that. So he was doing a great job, and of course working with the one and thankfully the only Jay Simmons.
I appreciate it.
We can't ask for a better guy to work with, and I'm just a guy that, you know, sits here and does words and stuff. So can't wait to get working with you guys. And that's been your Tech Tailgate show right here, brought to you by Tech Credit Union from the Centier Bank Studios. Let's get ready. Week 1 right here on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.